A very good morning to you and welcome to Leading Up. I'm Mwikali and today we are at the Nairobi Hospital Doctors Plaza. We're here to look at child asthma and we're going to be talking to Dr. Lango, a friend of the show and a neonatologist, and we're going to be focusing on some of the things. How do you know that a child has asthma and how different is it from adult asthma? All of that and even the triggers to avoid. So let's have this conversation. Hello, I am here to see Dr. Lango. Straight ahead. Thank you. Ooh, how are you, Daktari?
Very well, very well.
Good to see you.
Good to see
Now
you.
we've come to your den.
All
All right.
I'm so glad you're here.
Okay. Thank you so much for having us, Dr. Lango.
My pleasure.
We're used to having you in the studio, but this time we came to where you rule, you're the king. Tunaomba ruhusa kuingia. Asante sana.
Nimeshukuru that you've come. I'm very glad you're here.
All right. So today we're focusing on child asthma and probably the basics. What are some of the things that mothers should look out for? And of course, what's the difference between that kind of asthma and adult asthma?
Asthma is basically the core of asthma is allergy. Okay,
Yeah.
so if you want to see if you want to find out what causes asthma, what I can tell you is that it's actually a problem with your lungs, hyperresponsiveness of their airways. Okay,
Yeah.
so for adults it's very easy to diagnose asthma because you say that you're going to have a recurrent wheezing, recurrent coughing, and when you give you bronchodilators, which is basically drugs to dilate your lungs, then you respond very fast. And we have specific tests, spirometry tests, whereby we ask you to blow into a machine and we look at your waves, we look at your numbers, and we say, oh, this is asthma. Very, very easy, very, very straightforward. But for children, they do not respond as well. I mean, you can't tell a child to hold their breath or blow for about 1 second, and then so doing the test is very difficult. So for asthma in children, clinical diagnosis is key. Okay, so what do we see? The first thing that you see is recurrent wheezing, recurrent coughing.
Yeah.
Mostly symptoms will come on at night or early morning, and sometimes you might find a child is just coughing but there's no audible wheeze. So you see a child who's having coughing attacks without common cold, and these symptoms are always at night, early morning, and it's persistent more than once in a month, then you need to have that child checked out for asthma.
So those are some of the things that a mother would look out for.
Yeah.
So when you realize that your child has asthma, so you've gone to the doctor, what are some of the things that you need to do now? Because as an adult, you know you have to take medicine, you have to stay away from certain environments. What about the baby situation?
Yeah, I mean the first thing is you want to establish is this asthma or a mimic of asthma, because many children will actually have wheezing attacks when they get viral infections, the common colds, bronchiolitis, things like that. So the first thing we want to establish is history. Is there family history of asthma? There are other siblings who are known to be asthmatic, adults, parents, uncles who are asthmatic. Okay, and then we want to start on treatment. So the treatment also helps us make a diagnosis. If you have your recurrent wheezing, your recurrent coughs, and you respond to bronchodilators, that confirms a diagnosis of asthma. There are other mimics of asthma that we know, things that can masquerade as asthma. Some people with TB who have constricted airways because of lymph node enlargement, they can wheeze, and that can be thought to be asthma, but it's not asthma, but just TB. Some people have congenital problems whereby the airways themselves, the way they're created, are very tight, so there's squeezing of air and there's wheezing, the recurrent wheezing, that can be confused for asthma.
Okay.
So we want to do certain tests to just get a baseline of where we are. We want to do a chest x-rays, look how the lungs are. We want to do certain tests to see if there's any infection that might be covering up for asthma. And once we are sure, or we have some sort of ground to stand on, then we want to start you on treatment. The goal of treatment is basically to make sure the child has a normal life. This child should be able to swim, should be able to run in the dust, should be able to play and roll in the grass like any other child.
Yeah.
Most of the times you find that people are very protective of the children who are coughing, and
Yeah.
like, I don't want him to go out in the cold.
Or even in school, I remember there were kids who would never do the chores, like mkifagia huko nje.
I know. And then the parents are very happy that this child is special. So you're not allowed to swim, you're not allowed to go for pee. We don't want that. We want all children to be exposed, to have a full childhood. Yeah. So our goal of treatment is to have control. We want to give you medicine so that you're able to do everything else that you're supposed to do. And
before we even get into the treatment, kabisa, let's just take a look at some of the things. You mentioned history is very key. You need to look at the background to just identify if this is something that happens that the parent or the grandparents had. Is it in the family? Or what some of the other causes that could, put a child or in a situation where they could actually get asthma?
If you look at twin studies, if you do a lot of twin studies to look at genetic causes of disease. So monozygotic twins, like identical twins, will have a very high concordance, a very high, if one has asthma, the other one will have asthma. That tells us there's a lot of genetic predisposition to asthma. There's nothing that you're going to take which will make you get asthma. You do not know specific things that you're going to take to make asthma. But on the same breath, we'll say that exposure to secondary smoke has been associated with asthma. Okay, so that's something that we know for sure. So genetic is key in predisposing you to asthma. Other things are just speculation, like air pollution. If you're in a place that is very highly polluted, then you can predispose to developing asthma. The underlying thing which makes you get asthma is what we call hyperactive airways. Say me and you, if we are taken to a cement factory right now and we happen to inhale the cement, we will actually have our airways constricted and we will cough. Okay? Yeah. That's really a large allergen. It's something really irritating to any standard person. But someone who's predisposed to asthma will find that they have hyperactive airways. So something that will not make your airways constrict will make the airways constrict. Let's say if someone comes in with a strong perfume, or there is a mosquito coil there, or stove just went off, someone had a jiko somewhere else. That light exposure, which you will take it with a smile, then the airways will constrict and they'll be breathless and they'll start wheezing. So hyperactive airways is the key. And with hyperactive airways, we also have that, we have this thing with asthmatics that they have allergies. So by allergies, we mean that the way their white cells work, the way their immunity plays around, leads to deposition of a lot of mucus on the airways. So the tubes of the airways, you have a lot of mucus being deposited there. We have a lot of fibrosis and collagen being deposited on the inner lining of the airways, such that if this air was this size, then with all these things deposited, it already becomes very small. Yeah. And to add salt to injury, the airway is hyperactive. Any small thing makes it constrict. Okay. So the predisposition to have that airway clog up with stuff makes you predisposed to allergy. So the treatment actually revolves around treating that. We want to give you medicine to reduce your body from forming and depositing stuff in your airway, and we want to give you medicine to relax these muscles so that the airway opens up. So we have two types of medicines. One is the controller medicine, and the second is rescue medicine. So the terms we use to identify. So rescue medicine simply means that if you have an attack right now, you're wheezing, what do we give you? We give you inhalers, but this particular inhaler is something which relaxes the muscles so that it bounces back and the airway space becomes bigger so that you can breathe. Okay. The other medicine that we'll give, we still actually really push for use of inhalers because they give us quick relief and small doses of the drug. So the other controller medicine that we use either a long-acting bronchodilator, meaning something which relaxes the muscle, or a mild steroid. Okay, so an inhaled steroid. So these steroids, what they do, they reduce the inflammation and the deposits around the airway so that the airway is not so clogged. And this, we give it over a long period of time. I get many mothers being very apprehensive about using inhalers because they think that it will cause an addiction. Once your child starts using inhalers, then they're stuck on it for life.
Because I was going to ask that
No,
if you start that at a very small age.
No, you're not stuck. In fact, if you use the inhaler for the prescribed period of time, then your chances are you'll not need the inhaler, because you can imagine you're going to remove all that clogging in your airway, all that hyperresponsiveness of the airway, such that later, a few months down the line, even if you're exposed to the allergen that used to give you problems, then your airway doesn't close up. So you're actually free of your asthma symptoms.
Because most mothers would ask, will it ever go away? Is it for life? Is it stamped till death do us part?
No, in fact, we tend to see many of our children starting to wheeze when they go to school, because that's the first time they're exposed to pollen, to dust, they're exposed to the cold air in the morning.
Those are the triggers.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the first time they start wheezing. But as they stay on through nursery to class 1, class 2, you see the frequency of the wheezing attacks reduces, because their bodies already start getting adapted to these allergens. So they don't respond as badly as they used to respond before. Yeah. You'll see that there's a very big percentage of children right now in nursery schools who are on inhalers. And we as practitioners try and avoid labeling them as asthmatics, because one, the mothers don't like it, and two, the diagnosis of asthma in a child who's less than 5 years is not that straightforward. As I said, it's clinical, and we try the treatment, and we tend to see many of these children sort of getting better with time. Okay, so many of them with time they don't use the inhalers anymore, and they'll just have a normal life, so to speak. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about food in relation to asthma. Would you say like some processed foods, or there are certain kinds of foods that that are probably a trigger to the asthma?
Yeah, there's that thing about food. It's not very firm. But there's some foods that have been shown to be associated with asthma diagnosis. I do not know how strong the association is, because sometimes we say such thing in TV and people think, okay, now I do not eat this anymore. That's not really, the associations are not that strong, so I will be very careful not to label some foods as causing. But anyone who is asthmatic will have allergies to particular something else. You might have that they have allergic rhinitis. They tend to clog their nose, they sneeze, or they get a runny nose in the morning and in the evening. You might find that they're allergic to certain proteins or certain starches. So it's very common that someone with asthma will have another type of allergy. So is it the egg or the chicken? Which one came first? Or there's something called an allergic match, which is a combination of asthma, allergic rhinitis, okay? When they have the conjunctivitis, like allergy in the eyes, the nose, and the chest, okay? So they go together. Food allergy goes together with asthma, it goes together with other sorts of allergies. So yeah, back to your answer, it's not straightforward. It's not straightforward. I will not say this will cause asthma. No.
Right. Yeah. Very, very important to note. And what kind of doctor should a mother look for when you notice these things? What is there a special doctor that they should be looking out for so that they can handle their baby?
Most of the asthma symptoms are very easy to treat. So even if you went to an outpatient facility somewhere, someone will be able to pick the wheezing child, someone will be able to give you the right medicine, probably some nebulizations or even inhalers. The people that will need referral to specialists are those that are not responding. You've been started on inhalers, 2 weeks down the line, 1 month down the line, your symptoms are just, there's no difference. Okay? So maybe you need someone who can take more time with you, go through what is in your bedroom, go through your diet, go through what activities you're doing, how is the home environment, so you can eliminate triggers. Importantly to note is that there are some triggers in the house environment that someone might not be aware of. And they're taking medicine, but they keep getting attacks. Things like fur, if you have a dog or a cat, that can be a problem. Cockroaches actually can trigger.
Really?
Yes, if your house is full of dust, full of cockroaches, if someone in the house is a smoker, you use, if you're using a stove and those fumes, those can be triggers. So despite all the effort that you're making in treatment, the the triggers are constantly there, so you're not achieving much improvement. So the chest specialists are there. We have pulmonologists, pediatric pulmonologists, whom will be of great help for those that are difficult to manage. Okay. Because at some point we need to escalate the treatment just from the standard treatment to something a bit higher and higher and higher.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've looked at wheezing, coughing, just some sort of short-term risks. But imagine a situation like you talked about where it's not stopping. Like you've tried treatment, it's not working. What are some of the long-term risks that a parent should be looking out for?
The asthma itself will not give you a long-term risk. You're not really disadvantaged. You'll be disadvantaged if you're not getting treatment. Okay, because if you're not getting treatment, then you're missing school. You're predisposed to getting lower respiratory tract infections. You're at risk of getting pneumonias. So the risk is actually from non-treatment. Okay, there is a small risk on the side of treatment, but then nothing really alarming, nothing that we can't handle.
So there's a myth that if you have someone in the family, probably a child who has asthma, you can't have pets, you can't have carpet in the house, especially the furry ones. The house is cleaned over and over. What is the relation between that and asthma, especially in babies?
It's actually the triggers. You talk about the triggers. You talk about smoke, you talk about fur, dust, pollen, strong fumes, strong smells. So you see, we're in Africa. We have a lot of dust. In any neighborhood, you'll find so much dust. The houses have been cleaned so many times. So the dust settles on the carpet because you're not really, you're not working with us properly. So if you have a carpet in the baby's room and it accumulates a lot of dust, then the child is constantly exposed to the dust, and that's a problem. You might find some children who react or are allergic to fur, animal fur. So that's where the animals come in. So when they're exposed to these animals, because they know the fur keeps coming off continuous, like your hair, it's all over the place. So they're exposed to these and they getting attacks. So once we identify the triggers, we say, okay, it's not really worthwhile. Let's get rid of the cat, let's get rid of the dog, let's get rid of the carpet, because we need to get somewhere with our control now.
Okay. I came across a study that says that it's actually growing, like child asthma is on the rise. What would you say is the reason why it's on the rise comparing it to other years?
Yeah, there is a correlation between cleanliness and increase in the diagnosis of hyperreactive lung disease, say like something like asthma. The more clean the environment is, then the more likely that those people in that environment will have some sort of allergies. So us who were born and used to roll in the dust and in the sand, then you're exposed to these allergens a lot earlier. We'll cough and maybe wheeze a bit, and no one really takes note. And by the time we're coming back home, we are sort of used to that, those allergens. But our children nowadays are very well protected. They don't play in dust, they don't play in grass. The first time they are exposed to these things is when they go to school at 3-4 years. Then they start wheezing, because this is the first time. This is the first time they're experiencing the real world. You see, these kind of wheezers tend to stop wheezing a lot faster than the true, very allergic children who have now the true asthma with hyperactive lung disease. So you can say, we have many wheezers in the early stages of school, but it's not necessarily asthma. Because also exposure to a viral infection like a common cold can make some children wheeze. You see, so when you go to school, you start wheezing because you have frequent common colds. You have been exposed to allergens that you've never been exposed to before, so you find they're wheezing. But with time, they stop wheezing faster than the ones who are very, very truly allergic from like family histories.
Very, very interesting. As we bring this conversation to an end, probably you can just break it down, like the pointers to note for any parent out there who's probably not noticing some things happening with the child, or an expectant moms, things to look out for, and even the environment where they're bringing the child to. What are some of the things that they should make sure that they ensure the baby gets or does not get?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, starting from the pregnant mother, the first thing to avoid is cigarette exposure. It has been shown cigarette exposure in utero when the mom is still pregnant does still have an effect to the child developing hyperactive airways. But of course, when the child has been born and the baby is exposed to the cigarette smoke, then that even further increases the chances of developing asthma. So for a parent who has a child who is coughing a lot, especially at night or early in the morning, or with exercise meaning the child comes from here, runs around a bit, comes back, starts coughing, or takes a lap, comes back, starts coughing. So coughing with exercises, early morning cough or late night cough, plus a family history of similar adults or other older siblings who are wheezing. Those three are strong indicators that the child is asthmatic. Secondly, I want to insist and to really put it out there that if your child is wheezing or asthmatic, it is not a bad thing. It's not something that is, it's not like back in the days when we thought this is a very chronic, debilitating illness. It's something that can easily be well controlled and this child can have a full life. We do not want our children who are wheezing to be restricted in terms of they don't go for swimming classes, they don't go for PE, they don't go out, they have 3 blankets on top of them whenever they're working. No, we want them to be well controlled. So very important, if the child has these symptoms, you don't need to wrap them, you don't need to hide them. Let them be evaluated and we start them on treatment, we follow them up and you'll find that they live a full life. Okay, the next point is, what do you want to avoid? Yeah. Try and avoid what you know is a trigger. Okay, obvious triggers are smoke, strong fumes, dust, pollen, far, as you say, and anything that you see can cause hyperactive air with strong fumes and things like that. Try and avoid the triggers. And then thirdly, take your inhalers. Inhalers are the best thing that has happened to us in the recent past in terms of management of asthma, because it gives us very small dosing of the drugs that we need, and they go directly to the lungs, so they don't cause as much side effects as the syrups that we take or the tablets that we take. So they go to the lungs, they cause the right effect on the lungs, and they modify the lungs to a state which makes us not wheeze. So we need to take the inhalers, and the inhalers is not something to take for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. We want to give you for a few months, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and then we reevaluate. So make sure you come for your reviews, make sure you're in touch with your doctor, and then also voice your concerns. Because sometimes you're taking these drugs and you're finding this child is not coughing anymore. Yeah. It has been a week, there's no wheezing, there's no cough, I want to stop. Don't stop. There's a plan to that treatment. And then every time you come for the clinic, then it's good to put your concerns to the doctor, because the doctor will tell you, this is the plan. We want you not to wheeze or not to cough for this duration of time before we step down on the treatment.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's very, very interesting and very, very helpful. And thank you so much for having us today. I hope everyone out there has been taking notes, because it's very, very interesting to note that the things that we went through, like being excused from PE, you can actually have your child go out there and play around. And because there's treatment, they can be well taken care of. The medications for that, the treatments for that. So do not let your child not have a full child experience. Like, let them go all out and roll in the grass. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much for coming.
Yeah,
it's been a pleasure.
You know the drill by now. Doctors Plaza.
Yes.
Doctors Plaza.
Yes, we are at Nairobi Hospital, Doctors Plaza, suite number 307. In case of anything, you can drop me a line. My number is 0706 612699.
Absolutely. There you have it. Asante sana.
Thank you very much for coming.
All right, this has been Leaving Up, and we've been talking about child asthma, and we've been talking to Dr. Lango. We're taking a very short commercial break. When we come back, we have Brian Suma on Beyond the Sports.
Kumake jina ikuji tu mara moja, inaanzia down kama una peak. So with time ikakuwa ni meanza training. Ndio kulikuwa kuna challenges pia home, because mom hakuwa anabambika na story ya boxing, mama alikuwa concentrate sana na maneno ya chuo.